Carmichael, Bills offensive coordinator, about Skylar Bell, I think from Monday. Low expectations on Skylar Bell. Maybe we get a good look on Saturday. Mm-hmm. He's behind a crowded room to a point. A previously invested in room, I suppose.
I think there's still wiggle room for him to get in there, though, in the preseason.
Yahoo Sports fantasy writer Scott Pianowski joining us in the Western Hotline. Scott, good morning. Jeremy and Joe, thanks for taking some time. We're excited.
Always great to talk to you guys.
We're excited about a new season. We got a new stadium. Life out here is all about new stuff. New head coach, same offense, but changes nonetheless.
For sure. By the way, Skylar Bell is currently my wide receiver 105, but after hearing that clip, I might move him up to 103.
All right, 103. We'll make a note. I'll ask you a question that I asked Joe a little bit ago. Where are you placing James Cook? RB blank.
Yeah, I have him at running back 5. He is worth considering in the first round. I think he's a second-round smash. In one draft that I did, I was able to get Jonathan Taylor, maybe 9th or 10th pick, and I came back with Cook, which is my favorite way to start a fantasy draft this year, is to get a couple of running backs, and then the next 5 picks I made for receivers. So that's my priority here. Running backs are really, with a mix of receivers, I want a receiver room that starts itself, and I will come back to the quarterback and tight end positions, which is a backdoor way of saying, as great as Josh Allen is, quarterback is so deep this season. You can do well at any tier point. I always say it's the New York subway system. You miss a train, there's another one coming in 5 minutes. That's how I feel about quarterbacks. But get James Cook off a rushing title. He's had touchdown equity the last couple of seasons, tied to what should be a top 5 offense. He's one of the safest picks on the board that I see.
Yeah. How much of that, I guess when I said earlier to that is, I don't think the top 3 I would ever consider taking Cook over McCaffrey, Gibbs, Bijan, not in that order. And then Taylor, I feel like I could be talked into it. I probably wouldn't do it. How easy would that be for you, Taylor being the 4th guy, or unless you have somebody else there?
No, you have the board the way I arrange it: Gibbs, Robinson, McCaffrey, Taylor, and Cook. Although I will say that the fly in the ointment of those guys is McCaffrey for me. He is somebody who he has led the NFL in yards from scrimmage 3 times. And the last 2 times he did it, he had an injury-ruined season. The following year, he's back 9 player. His efficiency stats went down significantly last year. He was so valuable because Kyle Shanahan ran the offense almost like the goal was to get CMC as many fantasy points as possible. But unlike somebody like Derrick Henry, who is a little bit older than CMC, but there's no drop-off in his efficiency at all. It's actually gone up in Baltimore, which is crazy. And Henry just gets a double-digit touchdowns every year. Even the year he missed 2 months of the season, he got double-digit touchdowns. I forget how many years in a row. It's been now 8 or something like that. Just crazy. I'm not opposed to Henry in the late 2nd or early 3rd, generally where he goes. I might even middle 2nd in the right room. McCaffrey, I would like to be somebody else's problem. I slightly prefer Taylor only because I think he might be more important to his offense than maybe Cook is to his. But Cook and Taylor are easy punches for me. And again, I'm trying to stay away from CMC, realizing he could beat me, realizing it's not going to be fun when I go up against a team who has CMC. But you should sleep like a baby with who you take in the first round. I just can't do that with McCaffrey.
Are all the injuries in San Francisco helping or hurting his cause, you think, for this?
Man, what an old team, right? McCaffrey in his 30s. Williams, their star left tackle, I think is 37 or 38. Mike Evans, George Kittle off a major injury. Even Debo, I think, is 29 or 30. Interesting piece to come over. Ironically, the guy who's already out for the season is Ricky Pearsall, a young player who's had a very unlucky run out to the start of his career. I thought I was going to be in on Brock Purdy pretty aggressively maybe a month ago, and now I think you have to back off. But with McCaffrey, nobody's going to steal his job. We know that. And it helps significantly that he's got all the touchdown equity and he's got all those catches. So he gets tackled by the lighter defenders. He's not going to be game scripted out of any Sunday. But I want to, for the most part, bet on front 9 guys, bet on players who maybe haven't had their best season yet, bet on players who haven't had the attrition. I also realize when I talk about him getting hurt after those seasons of heavy workloads, that doesn't have to be because he collapsed by the weight of the work that he did. Sometimes it's just you get lucky staying healthy one year and the next year you're not. It's been unusually lucky with running backs the last 2 seasons. Their injury rates league-wide have been down, which is shocking. Part of it is more platoon, so you just don't touch the ball as often. But the Niners have been a brand-name offense for fantasy for so many years in a row. And obviously Kyle Shanahan is a play designer we like. But now I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? Give me the Bears offense. I realize they have some injury concerns. Give me the Jaguars offense. Dallas has a really clean setup. They're not going to stop anybody, I don't think. Prescott, to me, is grossly underrated. I don't see what's much different from him than Joe Burrow, and you can get Prescott a lot later. He's got dynamic receivers on the outside. The Niners are basically a team I'm kind of avoiding. I have a little bit of Evans. Kittle off an Achilles injury. He's in his 30s now, a walk-in Hall of Famer, but I'm nervous to punch that button. Usually Kyle Shanahan is a destination for me. This year I'm going in the other direction.
You mentioned the Bears there and Kittle. Where is the tight end? If you don't get in by this guy, you might as well wait.
Yeah, I'm Bowers and McBride only because I don't like what my running back wide receiver builds are. I'm not going to take those guys. Open if Loveland goes to a reasonable price. A lot of times he doesn't. I think Tyler Warren could easily be the dominant target in Indianapolis. Alec Pierce has had such a bad summer run out. You can't draft him. I do think Josh Downs is a great target, although he's become somewhat trendy. But Loveland and Warren, if the price is right, I'm okay with it. I think Lepore is a little bit underserved right now. Hurt last year. He's got a tight end 1 finish on his resume. I think he's a nice play where he's going. After that, I'd probably wait and Kraft off a major injury. I know the summer drumbeat is strong. Kittle, I hate to bet against him, but at his age and after an Achilles injury, I don't want to make that play. Kelsey's just too old now, a catch and fall guy. Do you trust Kyle Pitts, who crammed it all into 1 month last season, but he was the tight end 2, drafted as the tight end 8. That looks like a nice buying opportunity. Some of the guys you can get after the top 10 tight ends, maybe likely pops with the Giants. Goddard was a big touchdown guy last year. Mark Andrews, I think, still has something left. Jake Ferguson's underrated. Juwan Johnson got paid for the Saints and went out and did it last season. I think his ADP is a giveaway. I don't mind the guys in there. I'd probably take 2 tight ends if I went after the top 10. But right now, guys like Laporta, Warren, maybe Pitts, those are kind of the tight ends I've been gravitating towards.
Yeah. How does that list go like 20, even more than that deep at tight end that you would feel comfortable saying like, yeah, if I have to roll Gadsden out there or Terrence Ferguson, like eventually there's a cutoff. But I feel like it might be 20 guys that you'd be like, I just do this at the end and throw them in.
Yeah, Hunter Henry. We couldn't stay healthy, and then all he's done is basically be healthy for 5 straight seasons. Tied to Drake, maybe like that. Chig Okonkwo, maybe less interesting after Diggs signed in Washington, but he's got a path to maybe 700 yards. Brenton Strange isn't a bad player, although the Jaguars have so many good pass catchers. I have the A.J. Barner as a little bit of touchdown equity in Seattle. They used him as a short yardage runner last year. I realize the play calling has changed. As most teams, when they win the Super Bowl, they get rated in the coaching staff. But I think Barner is a nice tight end right now. Even though I like him, he's still just tight end 21 because there's plenty of guys I can talk myself into. Could Greg Dulcich lead the Dolphins in receptions? It's going to be a really low number, whatever it is. But you like him. Pat Freiermuth in Pittsburgh, the tight end room is a little thinner. And now I'm starting to talk about guys outside my top 20. Yeah, you should have no problem. It's not quite like quarterback, where you might draft the quarterback 15 and he could finish in the top 5. You're not going to draft Juwan Johnson and expect a top 3 season or something like that, or Hunter Henry. But this is a deep pool. This is why I'm running back receiver heavy early, because quarterback is ridiculously deep. And I think tight end, as you kind of mentioned, is sneaky deep this season.
Diggs goes to Washington, Scott. And does he fit a description of old guy that no one feels excited to draft? And who might be your guy for that? Like someone that no one's going to be excited to draft, but actually is a good pick.
He's definitely one of those guys. The 2 poster children for that theme this year, which is a theme I like, more of a fantasy baseball theme, but we like it in fantasy football. Wan'Dale Robinson, who not that long ago people were just mocking him and calling him PPR scam because he'd catch all these short passes that wouldn't go anywhere. But last year he actually got downfield more often. I think he leads Tennessee in catches. And sticking with the Titans, remember the Titans this year, Tony Pollard, 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I realize they have Spears. I realize they drafted a rookie running back, but I think Tony Pollard grossly underrepresented. outside the top 20 at running back. I think he'll finish there easily. I also think Cortland Sutton is maybe being a little bit disrespected. I know they added Waddle. I know Pat Bryant has had a nice camp. Tony Franklin did some things last year, but Cortland Sutton's such a good boundary player, and I think he's got probably 907 in his back pocket, and where he's drafted, you easily – I call those plays regress and win, where Cortland Sutton can play a little bit worse than he did last year and still beat his ADP. You're not going to win the draft room when you pick him. He's not a hipster pick. Nobody's going to groan or wrap you on the shoulder. They probably won't even comment at all. But, Cortland Sutton, Tony Pollard, Wan'Dale Robinson, names. Maybe I wouldn't want to have both Titans on the same team, but names I'm happy to pick this summer.
Scott, it's funny. Like he said, the old guy no one's excited about. I've been a little bit mindful of that in dynasty setups. That if you're not careful in dynasty, everybody gets kind of enamored with the guy that's the new flashy thing, and like whether it's Diggs or I feel like this about you said Wan'Dale Robinson is another one. Ramondre Stevenson, like you got to be on some level thinking like the coaches. Like who does the coach like? Even if you don't think he's good or only has 2 years left, like there are probably values to expose in your dynasty league by going for some older guys because everyone's so eager to get rid of players that coaches still find useful.
So well said. I want to just emphatically co-sign everything you said about Ramondre Stevenson. He's the guy who's been around. He's not the exciting new player we saw last year. Henderson had a really good camp and then a very ordinary regular season. I do have Stevenson a little bit behind Henderson in my ranks, but it's like basically don't draft Henderson. And when Henderson goes, that's your dog whistle to, in a round or two, pick up Stevenson, a boring value veteran. He fits this theme significantly. The hardest boring value veteran to kind of figure out is Chuba Hubbard because he was last year beat out by Dowdle. How healthy is Jonathan Brooks? I'm kind of in the I'll believe it when I see a camp with Hubbard and Brooks. Brooks has just missed so much time. It's been so long since he's been an impact player at Texas. He's hardly played in the NFL, but I don't think Hubbard is any kind of a special talent. So maybe not as proactive there. In Carolina, also, they've already had offensive line injuries. We saw last year the Chargers' offensive line went kablooey basically on opening day, and it changed the trajectory of that offense. By the way, if you're thinking post-type sleeper this year, I'm all in on Ladd McConkey and most things Chargers. But yeah, Stevenson definitely fits this theme, and I want you to have him earmarked on your sheet. I think he's set up to be a tremendous value.
Scott, how devastating for draft value do you think the Luther Burden and Emeka Egbuka injuries are? Maybe Burden more so because that could run up right to the start of the season. How much would that injury dock him for you?
Yeah, I moved Burden down to wide receiver 26, and it broke my heart to do it. And now I'm not sure what was going to break my heart is I'm not sure how many shares I would have got of Burden because he was just so trendy. We love Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams improved so much last year. And the case of Burden versus Adunze has always been, well, this coaching staff inherited Adunze. Burden is somebody they handpicked along with Colston Loveland, and we saw signs of superstar with Burden. We know what Ben Johnson did for his receivers in Detroit, but I don't want to draft into injuries. They're going to find you on opening day. So when a significant injury pops up, I basically become a half step outside the market on those guys, and it sucks with a guy like Burden, because I mentioned the Bears just being a really exciting offense. Johnson totally flipped that team last year. Caleb Williams' trajectory completely changed, and I was going to be in there fighting for Luther Burden, knowing it wasn't going to be easy to get him because everybody else wanted to draft him too. Now I feel like in every room somebody's going to talk themselves into the optimistic range of his health, and I just can't do that.
Scott Pianowski, Yahoo Sports on the Western Hotline.
Lastly, Scott, preseason games really get rolling tonight. There's 6 of them. How buyer beware should people be of this guy that pops off in the preseason and moving them up their boards? Or do you react to some of the things we'll see in the preseason? It
depends on your priors, right? He's got to confirm your priors.
Yeah, right.
Confirmation bias, one of the most important clubs in the fantasy manager bag for sure. It's become less and less of a thing because the teams just don't use their guys as much anymore. There are some teams who will hold their offensive starters out the entire preseason. So mostly you're just hoping guys stay healthy. It's always interesting who's running with the ones, who's running ahead of the twos. Sometimes I use it to try to figure out who the backups might be in certain situations. With all the McCaffrey talk I gave you earlier, I don't have a great answer for what they would do if he got hurt. But in the preseason, some of those things you try to sniff around and get answers. Who's the number 2 with the Chargers, their backfield. Although a lot of times when running backs get hurt, teams figure it out after that happens. They don't necessarily know, or they'll let it happen on the field. A couple guys will play, and whoever's the hot hand will assume control. But there was a time when I felt the preseason was so important. I wanted to watch as many games as I could. I got to be in a sports bar. I got to try to find some package, or I got to try to listen to out-of-town radio to get the inside scoop because I feel like I'm missing out if I don't see stuff. It's almost to the point that you can ignore 95% of what happens. It's great to have football back. You have to pay attention to the injuries, but teams are generally trying to fill the second half of their roster. They're not trying to do much with their first team in the preseason.
Scott Pianowski, Yahoo Sports on the Western Hotline. Scott, thanks very much. We'll talk again.
Thanks, guys.
The preseason is not interesting because Haynes King is out.